just started the recording. The screen is frozen. So for those people at home, I know for sure Connor's at home. Connor, feel better if you end up watching the video, dude. If you don't watch the video, I guess you can... No, I'm joking. But finishing the mastery follow-up that you just got, that is relatively due Friday, and I'm actually adjusting... Well, actually, you guys weren't set to have a mastery Friday anyways. But I'm adjusting some plans because I will be out next Friday on the 9th. I have a few different doctor's appointments I need to go to, so we will be taking your Chapter 7 mastery next week on Thursday and Friday, because I like to give you guys plenty of time to do that. So for you planners out there, on the 8th and 9th, we'll be taking your Chapter 7 mastery. So Chapter 7 on the 8th and 9th. Who what? 8th and 9th, like next Thursday, Friday. So if we look here at like what there is in Chapter 7, we're almost done. Right? So this is tomorrow. Friday, I'm still figuring out exactly what we're doing, and then this stuff will be next week before your mastery. And then we'll take the Chapter 7. It'll actually line up pretty well for us. Yeah.
Okay, so for like number 1, and if it's easy for me, should I still do it, or should I?
Number 1. What do you mean, number 1?
On the follow-up, do we do everything, or just do like what we think we need?
Yeah, so really, I would like you guys to do the whole thing. And this was like a conversation I was having with the Math 7 class of like, while you might look at it and be like, well, I did that on the test. I showed that I knew how to do it. Well, okay, then just do it again real fast. Like, it's good practice, regardless of if you had issues on the test or not, because they're different problems, right? So that is similar to what you had on the test, but different. And actually, in my opinion, I tried to make the follow-up easier than the test, and you notice you don't have any fraction coefficient problems. So if you're giving yourself a mastery on the test, you do not have to do this. Have to being the optimal word. Would it still be a benefit to you to practice these skills? Yeah, it's always a benefit to practice. People often, and this I always kind of laugh at it, are like, how do I study math? Just do it. There's no real like studying math. I mean, you can study the rules or certain theorems, but like you just do it. The only way to get better at math is do it. So if you really did very well on the mastery and you're like, yeah, I gave myself a mastery, you don't have to do this. However, it would be good practice. If you gave yourself a progressing on the mastery because you made enough mistakes, you're like, yeah, that didn't go well, then I would like you to try to do this whole thing. If you have any issues, come see me. I would like to work with you on it. But like, so if you look at 7, I have a couple fraction coefficient problems, but we're not mixing x and y. We're not doing like a bunch of different fractions. We've practiced that now, that reciprocal multiplication technique. So even though 7 is probably the hardest problem on here, potentially, yeah, it's not terrible. 4, where you do have to solve for y, I kept it all like whole numbers, nice numbers to work with. So just group together your like terms and isolate that y. 5, you probably are going to need graph paper to do that. Or if you really want, you could do it on the back, I guess. There's some space where you could do that. And then there's a note at the back bottom. If you look at that, it says, hey, yeah, you. When you turn this in, it needs to be stapled with your original mastery. Your honest assessment of how you would have graded yourself should be at the top right of the front page of the original mastery, I guess I should have put. So you're not putting like a grade on this thing, right? You're putting a grade on your mastery, which you kind of should have already done. But that's that. That's the follow-up. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, yes. No, you're not allowed. Anybody else that didn't get one somehow? Jordan?
I had one.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Question about last night's homework.
Okay, sweet. I appreciate that. So we go look at 716 real quick. And Connor or anybody else who's absent, I have these in the slot that you can grab. Which problem, George?
I was confused. I'm still a little confused on the fraction buster thing.
Yeah.
770.
Yeah. So we look at 70.
Yeah.
Do you want A or B?
Both.
All right, pull out your homework from last night. Should be easy. Should be close in your binder. We'll check answers. Even if you didn't have issues with this, we'll check your answers. So, George, the first thing we want to think about is what would be a common denominator if we were having to add or subtract / manipulate these. Please put that mastery follow-up away or under your book or somewhere. Like, don't work on it now. Be with us in the moment now. One of the things, as Mr. Sherd came into Phoenix and we like kind of restructured having a principal, one of our, what do we call norms of us having a meeting is be present, like be with the current conversation, be like paying attention to what is going on. So if I look at 2, 5, and 10, if I had to choose a common denominator, what would it be? Anybody? 10, right? So my 3/2 plus 2x, sorry that 2 looks weird, over 5 plus, or sorry, equal to 7 over 10. I then apply a multiplication of 10 on both sides. Now we could, the original way to do this is write out that this becomes 30 over 2. This becomes 20x over 5. And this becomes 70 over 10. And I'm really glad you asked this question because right at the end of class yesterday, I showed you guys the shortcut method. That is even a shorter shortcut for dealing with problems like this. Now, none of these are on your current follow-up mastery, like I made sure of that. Okay, because this will be on the Chapter 7 mastery, but I realized I made the original 4 or 5 mastery slightly too hard, so my bad. But the shortcut, right? Give me all eyes up here. Because this is like, once you get it, it makes your problem solving so much faster. Like seriously, I've had kids, and this isn't like toot my own horn or anything, but I've had kids come back and say, I never realized how like useful that was until I realized how much time I could save. Of course, you guys don't care about other strategies because you're like, well, I know how to do it one way. I'm going to stick to that way that I know. I'm trying to save you time. I'm trying to make your life easier. So what we can do to shortcut it, 10 divided by 2, what is that? 5 is what you multiply by your 3, and you get 15. 10 divided by 5, what is that? Is what you actually multiply by your numerator, and we get 4x. 10 divided by 10, 1, so the 7 stays the 7. Now, if I take my red up here and I simplify them and I do the divisions, this is what I get. I get green. But I could just shortcut my way there if I want to. So in our head, because this is the common denominator that we chose, it nicely works with all the other denominators. And now this isn't actually a denominator, of course, but it's what we chose because it would be. So we know it works well and makes life easier. That's my goal. Does this problem make sense to this point? Then, to solve for x, how do I get this 15 out of here and over there? Subtract it, because it's positive. So we subtract 15, and we get 4x is equal to negative 8. And how do we get rid of the 4 that is multiplied right now? Divide. And we get x is negative 2. Careful with that negative.
And then B was just really confusing.
Okay, so is this good? Or are we good on A? Okay, because this is also why I didn't put anything up there for Friday or anything. Like, we need to take some time and talk about homework problems. If we don't get through the whole lesson today, like that's fine. Okay, so please be honest and ask questions as things are difficult for you. That's the point. And the CPM homework, especially with us jumping around, just to make sure you guys get this. Maybe you guys will understand. CPM is structured with mixed spaced practice. So what that means is your practice, your homework assignments, are always a mix of problems. It's not all the same skill set, but then they space out you doing that type of problem. So the fraction buster problems, you got a couple in this homework, but then they're going to space those out over some more homeworks as we go, and they won't be like back to back. Right, so we'll go a few more days, and then maybe at some point in the next chapter, we'll see another fraction buster problem. We'll be like, wait, we're not doing this right now. We maybe didn't do it in class, but it's making you remember how to do it, like even though you did it like a week ago or something. So please engage with your homework. There's a ton of research that goes into why this will work. If you had issues on B, go ahead and copy it down again if you would. Negative 8x over 5 plus 1 over 6 equals negative 5x over 3. Look at your denominators and choose what would be common. The first common multiple there would be 30. And problems like this, especially when you have such a big number out here, this is where our shortcut really can help us. If we multiply in, we're going to get like negative 240x divided by 5. And actually, I'll write these things out for us. Negative 240x divided by 5 plus 30 over 6 equals 150x over 3, but that's negative. If we just do the multiplication and don't take the shortcut. If we want a shortcut, let's choose a different color. Some kind of orange. What is 30 divided by 5? 6 is what multiplies by this numerator. So what's negative 8 times 6? What is, I don't know what color to use, a little bit different red. 30 divided by 6. 5 is what multiplies by that numerator. What is 30 divided by 3? Sorry, those colors are really similar. 10 is what multiplies by that numerator. Yeah, 50. Sorry, I was about to write down 10. Negative 50x. I won't change to blue. And then we solve it from there. Are we good up to this point?
Yes.
Then you have 3 options that are all right, and then like 6 or so options that are wrong. If I look at my x's and I say, oh, this is the side that is my x side, I want to get this off of this side. So we add 48x, but here's where it becomes tricky. Negative 50 plus 48 is negative 2. Darn it, it's still negative. Negative 2x. And just equal to 5. How do I get rid of a negative 2 that is multiplying? Anyway. Multiply by itself. Divide by itself. Because remember, this is multiplying. We divide by negative 2. Negative 2.5. Right? Because we have
Good morning, Nora
one
Schwartz. Please come to
negative.
the office. Nora Schwartz, please come to the office. Thank you.
Now, there's a whole nother option that actually I prefer. I don't like negative variables. Sorry, that's up there if you still need it. I'm going to clear this. Negative variables are kind of icky. I should not have deleted that whole thing. So if I go back to my negative 48x plus 5 equals negative 50x, if I want to force my variable to become positive, instead of adding 48x, I could add 50x. Right? I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides. That'll result in a positive 2x.
Yay.
But now this is equal to 0?
What?
That's okay. That's still a number, right? Like that's a number. Then I just move my 5. Minus 5 from here. Minus 5 from here. I'm going to get the exact same thing, except I get there using positive variables. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference. I still divide by 2, and I get negative 2.5. Yeah. So hang on just a sec. Are we good on these from 70? Any other questions? Those of you avoiding eye contact with me, be honest with yourself. Other questions on this process? Yeah, as teachers see lots of things. We also see when you're trying to not see. That is a strategy that even we've used, right? I was sitting in my differential equations class and I'm like, please don't look at me, please don't look at me, I don't want to be called on. We get it, we know it, but if you need help, let us know. 70 or different problem? Because I only want, you still have a question on 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how are you supposed to memorize the algorithm?
It's not an algorithm.
Oh, okay.
It's so we'd have to define what algorithm really means. But this is just a strategy to make this solution easier because we're saying what multiplication can destroy division by 5 at the same time that it destroys division by 6. Well, if I just wanted to destroy this, I would just do times 5. But if I want to do both at the same time, I do times 5 and times 6, which is times 30, and that just naturally destroys this. And like if it didn't, then I'd have to like multiply again by a different number. Now, if you wanted to be like crazy, we could do times 5, times 6, and times 3 at the same time and do times 90 on both sides. That would also work. So okay, if you want like a rule that could work, you honest to God take all your denominators, multiply them together, and multiply by that on both sides. But that's not always the least common multiple. Right? So if we did that here, we'd get 90. It would work. We'd just get super big numbers. The 30 is easier. It gives us more manageable numbers. Because 30 is the first common multiple of all three of those values. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not really like this step, that step, but you could just say multiply all denominators together, multiply both sides by that value, and reduce. And you don't have to take the shortcut. If you look here in the green, negative 240 divided by 5 gives you negative 48. 30 divided by 6 gives you 5. Like, you don't have to take the shortcut. I'm just showing it to you guys as like a tool in your toolbox. I don't have to use my electric hammer drill. I could use a screwdriver. Well, my electric hammer drill is going to get me there a lot more like quickly. Right? It's a tool in your toolbox. Use it if you want. That makes sense? We'll shout out my brother Brad. He works for DeWalt. He bought me my drills. All right. So that answers your question, yes? Other questions on 70? Other questions?
On 75, we have to do
75. By the way, where it talks about the 5D process, you could look that up or you don't need to use it. But like if you are wondering about 5D process, I had a couple people ask. No, so stem and leaf plot. Did you look up stem and leaf plot? So yeah, I mean, so measures of center describes all the mean, the median, and the interquartile range. Which here we don't really do quartiles, but we could with our stem and leaf plot. This actually can break apart our quartiles. But you should, once you have these in order, like with a stem and leaf plot, then it should be easy to find the median. The mean, it's going to take some punching into a calculator. But yeah, you should find the mean also. And I wonder if they'll just show it in the homework help. Stem and leaf plot takes your tens place and puts it over here, and only the ones places go here. Now, the easy way to find your median once you have a stem and leaf, what's your median? What does median mean? Middle, right? Take 1 off the bottom, 25 is my lowest. Take 1 off the top, 75 is my highest. 1 off the bottom, 1 off the top, 1 off the bottom, 1 off the top, 1 off the bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. I can just keep doing this. Now I'm right here. Boom, 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 boom. I think it's 43 for median. I believe. Let me see. Okay, well they don't tell me what the median is, but I think it's 43. Should be. Unless I goofed up, which happens. Did anyone get 43 for median? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Like, I was waiting for someone to say, yeah, it is, but y'all are just like...
I haven't really gotten it.
Yeah, you told us that we were looking at you after you said that everyone like started staring.
It's okay, but you still need to interact with me. Don't just like... Okay. What other questions? I like this. I would like it if you guys brought more questions. Not like, don't just do it just to do it, but if you're wondering how to solve a problem or whatever, ask them. Quinn.
I got confuzzled on 7-71 on B. Because I
So-
got to the point where 8/6.
So I just turned this around because I like my variables to be on the left.
I don't know why.
So this one, right?
Yeah.
So what's the first thing you did here, Quinn?
The first thing I did was use fraction busters to get rid of the fraction.
We actually don't need to. Not here.
You just convert the
We don't need to. Not here.
fast.
Did you say pass?
I said fast.
Okay, but we speak English in this class.
Alright.
Or Spanish. We could try. You can
No.
say Spanish.
We should do that, Miss
But-
Connie.
Pregunta. Okay. Who can help Quinn? Let's say Quinn was like asking people for help on the homework. How do we solve for x here because it has a fraction coefficient? Reciprocal multiplication. This is the quickest way to get there. Now you could multiply by 21 on both sides, and then we could, but that's doing more work than we need to do. If we multiply by 7/2 and make either of these negative, it doesn't matter, but I can just, if I want to be pure and flip that fraction exactly, then we come over here, 7/2, it doesn't matter where the negative is, but sure, I'll put it there. This all turns into 1. So 1x, and then my multiplication straight through. So negative 42, I want to make sure I get that negative, and 56, right? So I could put my negative anywhere. I like to say negative 56 over 42, and just put it as part of my numerator, but it doesn't matter. It could be in the denominator. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, I just tried doing it a different way.
You made it harder than you needed to. If you're trying to get rid of a fraction multiplication, we can use multiplication to do it. Just multiply by its reciprocal. Más preguntas? That means more questions. We could. They're both even, so we could definitely reduce it just by dividing by 2. It's improper, so we could make it mixed. But here, it did not say simplify. It just says find the value. So this will work. You don't have to reduce it, but we could. Other questions from the homework?
Are you conducting?
I was looking for questions, but really I'm just waiting. The longer you wait, the higher the likelihood of somebody asking the question. Because it gets uncomfortable. I'm serious. Gabe just laughed at me, but like for real. That's the point behind wait time. If people are being honest with you, wait time gets uncomfortable. Alright, if there's no other homework questions from last night, we're going to move on to today's lesson. So if you could get a header on your page, please, for 717. Back in my day,
Oh no!
it's probably one of those stories that you hear from your parents or your grandparents or whoever wants to make you feel young. And honestly, I even have stories like that because the world has changed a lot in just 20 years. Which now I'm like 18 years older than you at this point. So if we're rounding, we can say 20. Well, yeah, that's actually correct. Well, I'm 29, but yeah.
He's a young man.
So, I'm 29, dude. So, back in my day, stories often will tell you what the price of gas was or what it cost to go to a movie. I distinctly remember my grandma, who barely ever went to movies, but discussing how even to spend the like nickel that it costs to go to the movie and maybe like a penny for popcorn or things like that, like, because she was 93 when she passed away 2 years ago, right? So she was very old, and that was a long time ago. She would talk about getting paid in, like, cents per hour. Like, very small amounts. So the reason that all of that, you're like, they're like making this up, that doesn't make sense in my brain, is because of what we call inflation. Not what blows up the bounce house, but inflation in finance terms means the increase of cost based off money becoming lesser in value. So what's actually happening is the more money we make and the more debt our nation takes on, money's not worth as much. So where I could have gone to the grocery store and bought like a decent amount of stuff with $1 back in the day, like not me maybe, but like my mom or my grandma way back when she worked at a grocery store, things were priced for like 3 cents, 5 cents, 8 cents, 10, like cents, guys. Cents.
That does not make any sense.
Ha. So inflation, and they define it the rate at which prices increase over a period of time. If you like lock in a period of time, like you look from 1950 to 2000, you could get a direct inflation rate from that year to that year. Jessica? We can, we do.
Yeah, we do, but like a lot more money. But like she said that like it'll become pointless because like one time she said that it was like they started burning money because like they didn't use it.
Well, the government's always destroying money. So my dad works as a compliance officer at a bank, which is a connection between the feds and the local bank. They have to every so often send back a certain amount of old bills to be destroyed. Because as the feds send them money, like new money, they're trading essentially. So like, now you guys don't know this feeling, but when you go to the ATM and you like need to get cash out because you're going on vacation or whatever, and they're like crisp, brand new, never touched. Now, so think about this. Think about this. Right? So I get like $300 out of the ATM. If that's like a brand new $300, what Jessica's saying is like now there's $300 more in the supply of money, and all money's worth less because my now $300 brand new that I just got. Unless they take the money back, the old money that's been through like the washing machine and a million people have touched it, like probably legitimately a million people, and it's got all those germs and the corners torn. They take that and they burn it. They destroy it. Because we're trying to keep that level. Now, because we've already completely trashed my plans for today, what actually happens is there is a reserve, the Federal Reserve, which is a giant vault in a mountain where there's a bunch of gold. I was going to say a ton, but it's probably more than a ton. It's probably tons of gold. Like literally tons of gold. That gold, hey, I'm trying to teach you guys like good information. That gold is the only reason our money has value.
Oh.
And do you know that gold actually exists?
No.
I don't. Somebody told me there's a mountain full of gold, but I don't know that it's actually there. So, our money, and actually you can look on a bill, it says backed by the Federal Reserve. That is a mountain full of gold. That makes our money worth something. That's it. Because when they print money, they're saying, this money is representative, like this is a representation of gold in the mountain. We're not going to give up gold coins, like literally we used to like silvers and golds and like, but we're just going to use a paper representation. Yeah, I forget. You can look up the Federal Reserve, and there's probably multiple vaults and things like that. Yeah.
The Empire of Mali.
You're going way off. Yeah. All right, real quick, so that you guys have a chance at doing some homework. Yeah, I know. We're going to have to like shift schedules probably. We'll likely just end up doing 717 tomorrow. But all right, here's what's up. And I think we can probably work through this pretty easily. We got like 12 minutes left, so let's do some math. So let's say that you run a landscaping company or like a yard mowing thing. And actually, right when I left school yesterday, I drove by what looked like a high school kid, but he was probably graduated. SUV trailer, one mower, like one weed whip, and one like leaf blower. And seriously, I had the thought in my head, I bet he wanted to take a year off school, and his parents or somebody gave him a loan or set him up with, we'll buy a trailer, a lawnmower, all XYZ, so you can go try your business, right? Like, and experiential learning is the best way to figure stuff out. So, like, if I had a kid, I would totally support that. If I had the money to start up their business, get a lawn mowing company, that's great. But as you do that, you gotta buy gas. You gotta buy like new parts for the mower. You gotta keep things up. And you gotta spend money. So as you do this year after year after year, eventually, as inflation happens, you won't be charging enough. So we get this letter from this lawn mowing company, MoCare. Like the kid I drove by, that was all real. This is now textbook, right? So MoCare says their prices were $12.50. But now, based off inflation, they're going to have to increase their price to $15 per hour. Nice number, right? $15. So we want to look at what percent did they increase their price by to compare with inflation. Did they try to match inflation? Or are they like, giving me the runaround and charging me too much? Like they're saying, yeah, there's inflation happening, but we're really getting hosed, right? So let's figure out what's our percent increase. So we set up the old price times some percent equals the new price. Right? Solve this. Solve for x here. If we have 12.50x equals 15. Talk to your group real quick. How do we solve? Figure out what that x is, and then we'll discuss what it means. Maybe you should take a day where you guys can just ask whatever math type questions you might have. Yeah, like where is how like what really the question is why does money have value, right? Like as a kid you don't even necessarily know that. And old pennies are worth more than a penny. Because and not just it cost, but literally old pennies that were made of copper are now worth a lot. Like not like a lot, but compared to 1 cent. And even now it costs over 1 cent to make a penny. So a penny is stupid. A penny is a waste. Within your lifespan, you might see the penny phased out. Like they keep talking about, do we really need the penny, or could we round purchases to 5 cents? And if you have a credit card, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to round anything. You could still go to the penny place and swipe your credit card. But the penny, the hundredths place. Right? How? Sorry, do we have questions?
Yes. So how old do you? So remember the foundations when you type in trick or treat law?
Yeah, I couldn't find anything, so I don't think it went into effect yet.
Okay.
They're looking at making it that you can't be a teenager, like you have to be 12 or under. Hey, I knew I shouldn't have answered that. This is off topic. Hey, yo, chill. It's a Franklin County thing because they're talking about there being too many people out on the streets and too many kids and like high school kids misbehaving. So it's not like they're gonna stop you and be like, how old are you? But if they see a high school kid, obviously like 16 or 17, trying to trick or treat and shoving down little kids, that's where it becomes an issue. I was raising my hand to talk because apparently it doesn't matter that I was the teacher.
Mr. Hudson.
Oh, Marley called on me. Thank you, Marley. So we need to do math, right? How, Marley, thank you for volunteering. How could I get the x by itself here?
I divided by 12.5.
That's because that's the right thing to do. We divide by 12.5, and we can put the 0 on or it doesn't matter. And we get that x equals 1.2. So that is our scale factor. But can anyone volunteer to explain what that means in the realm of percentages? George, you shot it before.
Well, wait. So doesn't that mean how much is increased by?
Close.
Oh.
Quinn?
It increased by 20%.
Why?
Or it could be.
What does this represent?
That represents 1.2.
Well, but what is 1.2?
120%.
120%. Now, how are you saying they went up by 20?
Oh, right, yeah.
Because the 1 is just 1. So that
This price was 100%. Right? The price as it was the 100%. So since our multiplier came out to be 1.2 or 120%, this means that it's a 20, and please write this down, 20% increase. So he just increased his price by 20% of what it was previously. I mean, when I had to up my tutoring price, and I know you guys, some of you are going to like scoff at this or whatever, and be like, oh my gosh. And I get uncomfortable with this, but I tutor high schoolers, and like high school math is like kind of important to certain people. So like I actually, a person I was tutoring wouldn't pay me what I was charging. They paid me more.
Why?
Because she felt like I was undercharging. Because she has another tutor for Spanish, and she knew what they charged. I upped my price from 40 to 50 this year. So to have a tutoring session with an hour, yeah. I mean, I spent $100,000 to go to college for the expertise that I have. So that from 40 to 50, what's the increase from 40 to 50? $10. $10 compared to the original, that's a 25% increase. But that wasn't to match inflation. That was because I was already undercharging. I had been charging 30. 2 years ago, I was $30 an hour. And people were like laughing, just like, you're cheap, here you go. Like they loved it. Then I went to 40, and then this mom told me, like, you should really be charging 50. Everyone's charging between 50 and 75. You go Upper Arlington, like the more like, you know, ritzy kind of like just dish out money on whatever. They charge $75 an hour for tutoring.
What?
So get smart, tutor people. But you, as a student, like not a college graduate, anything, like student tutoring, you could easily get $20 to $25 just tutoring like a classmate. Like you guys, once you get to high school, if you are really good at stuff, you get good grades and good reviews from teachers and stuff like that, like you could tutor. You can do peer-to-peer tutoring, yeah. I mean, if your parents are down with that. You get an allowance. So, real quick, I need 5 more minutes. Really, it's like 3.5, but I'll call it 5. If we were to model this, what we're saying, and Quinn just said this, is 100% is what we had originally, right? The $12.50. My $15 adds on another 20%, making 120% of the previous. What we got to do, once we get our multiplier, that scale factor, that 1.2, is take away the 1, take away the 100%, because we already had that. We're looking at the 20% increase. Paige, let's do this real quick, and then this will probably be it for today. Paige needs help with some rock climbing costs. A lot of money that I've invested in rock climbing. So the class normally costs $50, but the school is offering a special of $34. That's a good deal. Paige's grandma wants to know the percent of the cost that she would save, right? What is the percent discount? So, 2 questions. And you're asking yourself these, because we're going to solve this real quick on our own. What was the original cost? What is the change in cost? Or, if you don't look at change in cost, you can say, how does the new cost compare to the old? Take a moment, try to figure this out on your own. Let's do 60 seconds on your own. No talking with me or anybody else. Yeah, old books really good. Two ways to do this, right? If we look at, okay, my smart board hates me. If we look at the decrease amount, Dave Pink for volunteering, how much do we decrease by? How much, just dollars. How many dollars do we save? Yeah, you're good. $16, right? We decrease 16 compared to what was 50. What percent does that become for the decrease? Do you know? 32%, which we could actually just double the top, double the bottom. If I look at new compared to old, like we just did in the last problem, we would have 34 compared to 50, which I could then extend to 68 compared to 100, which means you're only paying, you're only paying, because this is what we're paying, we're only paying 68% of the original.
And so there was some true choice.
And then we could subtract and figure out 32% as the difference. So guys, this is a great discount. This is almost a third off. Especially for a service that someone is providing you, like a class, a training class. That's a great discount. 32% off, that's pretty good. So that's where we're at for today. Try the homework, but I'm going to bump tomorrow's lesson probably the next day. We'll finish this lesson tomorrow. We'll figure it out. I got to be flexible. Have a great day, guys. Tomorrow, sit wherever you want. Don't forget, because I probably will. Yo.
So homework, you probably should do it.
Homework, like attempt it, see what you can do. We'll pick this up tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, we've done percent increase and we've done percent decrease now. We just need practice time.
Okay.
Yeah.